Welcome to the Cryptochrome channel. Thank you for tuning in to another ASMR video. Today I'm going to talk about photography in the furry fandom, and I'm going to use our favorite audio test subject, Binaural Bob. Enjoy the video. Today I wanted to talk about 3 different categories of furry fandom photography that I have come up with myself. They tend to be the 3 main ways that I break my photos down and divide them up based on style, location, and things like that. The 3 categories are furry meetups, convention photos, and concept shoots. Let's start with the meetups category. It's just like how it sounds. Furries tend to get together on a semi-regular basis for meetups. And if you're lucky, there might be a dedicated photographer there for all of the fun furry adventures. I try to be that photographer when I can. Sometimes you get candid photos like this one right here. Typically, you get some silly photos in with the mix. There's opportunities everywhere around you. There's always something nice to pose with, or some element of symmetry. And of course you can make the event take place anywhere that you like. So if you get thirsty, there's definitely a photo op in store. I like Photoshop, and I like how I can change something about the environment sometimes to suit my needs much better. I can confirm there was all-day barking indeed, and at only $5, what a steal. We Canadians have our proclivities, one of which, known the world over, is Tim Hortons coffee. It's not great, but it's sure addicting for some reason. And there might be a funny photo opportunity, sometimes erring on the lewd side of things, but funny no less. There are many places that you might not think about going, but unique opportunities come to those who are bold. We thought going to the local Hershey's store could have some fun times in store for us. We were not disappointed. Of course, the most touristy location around me is Niagara Falls. So you've got to get some good photos with the falls themselves in the background, right? This year is somewhat unique. It's the first time in a while that I've seen it freeze over to the degree that it did. Us furries are not shy about flexing for the camera. And you gotta get those group shots in. Everybody who wants to pull up, gather round, and get a picture. And another such event that has a bar, although this time I do believe that is a non-alcoholic slushy beverage. Be careful not to stain the This one takes place at Queenston Heights, where you get a beautiful view of the Niagara River, with the Canadian side on the left and the American side on the right. Way in the background, you will see Lake Ontario, and if I had a big enough zoom lens, you might even see Toronto. The Brock Monument itself has a big spiral staircase inside, and you can climb all the way to the top for quite the view, although I do not recommend it to the claustrophobic, as it is extremely tight nearing the top. I'm talking almost shoulders touching the walls. There are many displays of strength from this one, I feel. Here is one such display. I like a good stylized shot at a meetup, and this dog happens to suit a very punk or emo style quite well, and I like that. Something that works well with a high contrast, black and white, dramatic shadows, and a nice flash kind of look on your subject. And of course, if you can't find the most notable locations, everybody has access to a children's playground if you live anywhere near a city. Go at the best times of day, such as golden hour, for some pretty striking photos if you want to play with the sunlight. Both of these dogs are actually quite photogenic when it comes to the high contrast, black and white photo style. The time of year can also be a fun thing to play with. In this case, some beautiful autumn weather. Look, the fox is presenting us with a gift. A freshly harvested pumpkin. And in general, it's fun to capture the vibe of a furry meetup. People just hanging out, having a good time, and every once in a while getting a nice photo taken. I think a common place where we do find ourselves meeting up is under a gazebo or some other structure, because it can protect us from the wind or from the rain and the elements in general. Back to a children's playground. Swings are a ton of fun for anybody of any age, aren't they? I like it when there's displays going on. Something so cute, such as this, captures a fun element of the day, but also has some of the iconography of the area in the background. You can catch the Skylon Tower, a fun viewing area of the Niagara Falls. And just another casual, candid moment that if you're looking in the right direction with your camera, you can capture. Arcades are a favorite of mine. There's always so much fun in the air, pretty lighting all around, and you tend to blend right in fursuit. You can even go out to a skating meetup if you happen to live somewhere that has outdoor skating rinks. This photo was taken at such an event. That is all for the meetup photos. So now I'm going to move on to the next category of photos. These are the convention space photographs. I don't have many examples because I tend to get out of the convention space as much as I can, but if you go on Fur Track or another aggregator of furry photos, you will see probably millions of photos taken in a con space. And it's important to get the best photo that you can, no matter where you are. This photo is taken at the Harborfront Hotel, where there's a very prominent sky bridge. And the benefit of that is there's these big windows that let in a ton of light, whether it be during the daytime or at night. So use it to your advantage. I'm going to explain this photo, I suppose. I had a photo shoot with some pups, and they were pointing out the belly button, a very critical part of this particular pup. Look at them wagging their tails, having a good time, posing for the camera. Very striking shadows, very striking lighting, colors, everything. Every detail is important. Sometimes there's an outdoor space around the convention center. It's a good idea to check it out because there's lots of fun to be had with more symmetrical structures and silly poses. You can see how, even in the sky bridge, now with some different lighting conditions, you can turn up your flash and compensate so that the outdoors looks just as bright as the indoors. That way you get the most colors and dynamic range possible. Lots of silly spaces around most convention centers to take photos. And sometimes if you walk a little bit further away, you can find other opportunities around. I'm going to break away from this to talk about my favorite style of photography next. In this case, it is the concept photo shoot. It's pretty simple to come up with a concept photo shoot. All you need is a theme or location that has a consistent aesthetic. In this place, we're looking at a farm that does a Halloween festival. Many places put on a bit of a show around where I live. Hay rides, corn mazes, haunted houses, things like this. Quite the aesthetic. Here we see a fox peeking out of a barn-like structure. And of course, there are many interesting things on a farm. Perhaps we could take a menacing-looking photo in a field of sunflowers. Something usually thought of as quite upbeat and happy. Take advantage of interesting lighting, or go wild in your editing software to come up with a silly pose. In this case, we were at an arcade for the concept of the shoot, and we were playing a boxing game, and I made the fox pose like he was ready to box. I featured quite a lot of this photo shoot before on this channel, but it's still my favorite to date. The colors of the fursuit inspired me to think of a location that complemented it, and I think I had quite the idea when I came up with a specific arcade with much neon glow. This kind of concept shoot is wonderful because it really shows off the interesting aesthetics of a venue and your subject at the same time. All of the photos have a consistent feel. All of the glowing effects may change in color, but they're still a prominent part of every image. I had a lot of fun especially with all of these Pokemon plushies when it came to getting photographs of Opal. Oops. Now, you could even do a cityscape type concept, showing off, in this case, Toronto. There's always fun places and lighting to play with. In this one, you get to see Opal looking like a big scary monster. There's always stairwells around and interesting features to get a different angle. Coming from down below like this creates a different perspective, while keeping in mind to include some of the local features, like in the back where it says Young Sweets. Young Street is a very prominent street in downtown Toronto. And we can't forget about the CN Tower, another important piece of Toronto iconography. As well, there are many photos that include the public transit. I'm sure every city has a very unique style for their public transit. Different colors, different shapes of buses, things like that. Things that define a city. This is back at the convention space, but you don't have to necessarily go inside the convention space. You can do a concept shoot out on a different part of the property if you so desire. You could even do your photos during the Fursuit walk. Just about every convention that I know about has a big walk where attendees get to walk around their local city and parade in front of the local inhabitants their beautiful fursuits. Make sure to pose with people who are interesting and maybe can add something funny to your pictures. And again, going along the fursuit walk, there's plenty of interesting objects and opportunities, colors that complement the fursuits, and interesting aesthetics all around. Getting more of the iconography in. Not only do we have the CN Towers, but we have beaver tails. Some will recognize it as a very prominent feature of downtown Toronto and other places in Canada, such as Halifax. Who doesn't like a pretty ship? Look at the colors on these three folks, standing out in the photo so well. There are interesting places where they have old trains and box cars. Find the one that complements the colors of a fursuit, or at the very least, doesn't make everything look monotone. Even if you're going out on a fancy dinner date, bring your camera, bring your fursuit, take some pretty pictures. You never know how well they're going to turn out. And opportunities tend to strike themselves at furry conventions. At this particular one, somebody always pulls the fire alarm. So when it's midnight and the fire department is here, and you notice that your fursuit matches the fire truck so well, you might as well take a picture. And now, we can maybe pick the fall elements back up. If you were to do a fall-themed concept shoot, why not have some fall-themed baked goods? And maybe it's as simple as just going to a local forest and being a bunch of animals in the woods, making silly games and silly poses. In general, having a good time out in your local trail, going down by the water and having a squat, making a silly pose. Or why not tour your local downtown and find something fun, like a candy shop? Many vibrant colors, many fun things to do. In Niagara Falls, there is a winter And there's not much more aesthetically pleasing than a bunch of glowy lights when it comes to your photographs. You can choose to shoot with a flash or without in this case, because the glow of all these light features can cast an interesting color on the fursuits if you want to take advantage of it. Sometimes the werewolves come out at these kind of events, looking quite intimidating indeed. The funny thing is, this werewolf happens to be wearing a sweater on top of its fur. That's how cold it was outside. Another example of some beautiful glowing lights. I absolutely adore it. Again, look out for where the colors match something in your environment or complement it. I do like how the red matches, and then I don't mind so much that the dark sweater kind of contrasts with the closed door. If your concept is furries on ice, well, I've got you covered, because here we see Cortac out on the ice. Who knew furries could skate? Looking adorable. That is the idea. And don't forget to play with fun perspectives. Take your panoramas, your fisheye lenses, your tilt shift lenses, whatever you have, and make something fun with it. I know that I try to. That wraps up the photos that I have. So now I'm just going to finish my beverage. The mouth sounds are always something I find interesting about other ASMR artists. Some of them have systems to capture it quite well. I, on the other hand, need to get some pop filters that actually are easy to use, because the ones I have are pretty useless as far as attaching to my desk is concerned. What do you think? Should I invest in something like a 3DO? I know it might make recording easier in essence, but might I just sound like everybody else? Or is that not a bad thing? I have no idea. A little bit of stomach gargles. I'm gonna turn the sensitivity up even further so I can really get some sounds. You are completely maxed out with what my recorder can do. You'll probably get a lot of background noises now, but you can really, really hear every detail. Of course, as I try to make my setup better sounding, it is springtime, and everybody is getting out on their motorcycles and riding around, and my house has very poor acoustic properties, apparently, because the sound just comes right through. So it's like you're really here with me, listening to all the sounds that I have in my room. I understand that without a visual cue, these mouth sounds are probably less interesting. But eventually, I will have a pretty good setup, I think, to record with a camera at the same time. I ordered a ton of sound insulating panels to dampen the sound in my room. And when I have the money, I'm going to buy a bunch of canvas artwork of my favorite photos to put behind me so that there is a beautiful set. Should be quite a good time, I think. I think I am going to leave you go for the night, because this has been almost half an hour of me droning on. So, with that,